Right then, this week's Coronation Street. I know there's only 2 episodes of it. We don't want to be waffling on about nothing just to fill the time. We're going to be starting off with the Lee Institute story, which took pride of place at the top spot this week, which I was very, very pleased about. We also had a bit more of Poor Paulie Paul this week, including Summer's return. She is back from America, everybody.
I don't care about
with
Summer.
her very tall boyfriend.
I just want more Felix.
Are you really feeling him? Are you feeling Felix?
That won't go on a t-shirt.
Ill Will comes next, which is still my terrible storyline title for what was going on between George and Glenda. New storyline title, Gemma?
What is it?
No Can Do.
That can go on a t-shirt.
Yeah, and we also had the ABI story
Who
for
wants
Abby.
to design our merch? Because
Stop it. This is your stop going on about merch. I hear this all the time, everybody. Gemma's got all these ideas about merch, but nothing ever comes from it.
Because I can't design anything.
You're not a designer.
And I can't even do like a hilariously crap version that looks funny and good. It just looks sad.
So can I talk about the Institute this week? But feel free to chip in whenever you have any opinions or thoughts or I get something wrong. So Leanne is still going on with this AI Ollie thing, and today she's showing Sam. I can't remember whether we actually got to see it or it was just from behind the laptop from behind. But Sam is being, I thought, surprisingly tactful with it. Right, you know what you can be like. You can be a little bit forthright and just say it like it is. But no, he was. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was like not poo-pooing it straight away. People have had quite a lot of strong opinions about AI Ollie, we've noticed since last week's episode, haven't we? We didn't get to see any of it at the time because we just watched and then get straight into recording, but certainly some people have been fired up.
Yeah.
Do you want to those that with that?
Oh, come on. Honestly.
People have said that Coronation Street are being really insensitive and terrible about.
How dare you?
And
they didn't invent the idea of it. People do this in real life.
There was somebody put something on our Facebook group this week about an actual.
I don't understand why people think that because it's in Coronation Street, it's kind of like been given the big green light, double thumbs up by ITV. Like, yes, we do want you to join a cult. Yes, we do want you to die of MND. Yes, we do want you to die in a horrible fiery.
I think the AI Ollie was 100% supposed to be
cringing, creepy.
Yeah. So anyway, Sam's
well done. You didn't like it.
Sam doesn't tear Leanne's heart in too much with his response to AI Ollie, but then Nick comes on and's like, I really don't want you showing him that. It's weird.
What did the thing on Facebook? They were called ghost bots.
Huh?
Ghost bots.
Oh, was it? Is that what they are? I don't know. I don't
like that.
I forgot to read it.
Anyway, come up with a funny pun.
She's not impressed. She's not impressed by Nick's just his closed mind about artificially generated, aged up children.
It's really
and
hard to
off
tell.
Out the house.
Like how much is this actually bad, and how much is it a good way of coping? I really don't know. Like, okay, here's an example. When they first invented photographs, and you had a photo of somebody, they used to take photos of dead bodies because you wouldn't have the picture of the person. And I bet you people were going, oh, it is grim. But that's how you coped then.
Honestly, I think if people find it useful to cope with.
But is it really helping you move on? It isn't.
No, but if it helps somebody for a little while, I'm not especially against it. I'm not saying I would recommend it wholeheartedly to any bereaved friend I had.
Yeah, you would be like, don't worry, we can just make an AI version.
Yeah, but no,
it's cheaper.
And also, I wouldn't think that. I wouldn't recommend that person, if somebody does like it, like Leanne does, that I wouldn't recommend that they just try and impress it on all her friends and family by saying, look at it. Look, with all that, Steve still doesn't know about AI Ollie, has he? He's not, has he been in it at all this week? I can't remember.
So.
But
I don't think he'd go for it.
I really don't think he'd go for this. And it's been surprising, really, that she's not gone over to number one, like, hey, look, Steve, look at this. Then that would make quite a good scene, I think. But I don't know, maybe Simon Gregson's not available. Anyway, so yes, Leanne's bogged off. Nick's left with Toya, who little bit awkward after. Oh no, it's not awkward. The kiss hasn't happened yet, has it? Wednesday's when it's awkward.
Yes, you don't. Yeah, we all.
Toya's just a bit upset about the idea of Rose being dug up because she got arrested last week. Lest we forget.
Okay, be a bit more sensitive.
She is, that's what it basically is.
I know, but the way you said
she
it,
says
it's
she doesn't like her being poured over.
The way you said it, it's like, I don't know if you're actually talking about a dead baby or a plant.
Okay,
you need
fine.
to be a bit more sensitive.
Sorry. So Sarah catches Nick in the street later, and she says, "Look, there's a rumour going around about Toya being arrested. Is that right?" And Nick's like, "Well, yeah," but he's a bit cagey about it. Doesn't want to go into the details too much. He says, "Well, yeah, I'll tell you, but it can't go any further."
Right, Sarah won't tell anybody. That's right.
She hasn't done.
So immediately she goes and tells Toya that she knows.
Yeah, it was. I found it odd how Sarah was involved.
I know,
in
that's
this
what I
so
thought.
far.
She's like, we can be friends, can't we, Toya? I
Yeah.
heard you got a big story.
Setting up an allyship between
I don't want to
Sarah
not be in
and
it
Toya.
anymore. I enjoy being the centre of attention, so can I be in this story too?
I mean, maybe Sarah's being set up as Toya's friend because eventually Toya's going to get fed up with Nick and go off after Adam. She does have a thing for lawyers, maybe? Or maybe it's just that
wants to
desk.
Shag on the desk.
Yeah, anyone will do. So, not you, Dee. Got to be Adam, I guess. So anyway,
Why
Sarah
not,
is part of this story now, and so
Briefly.
and so she goes to see Toya later and says, "Oh, so what about was this arrest, eh?" And Rose, and Toya's a little bit taken aback to find out that Sarah knows about it, but they kind of do have a nice little bonding moment over Sarah, who also had a dead child.
Well, yeah, because they both can understand the deep, despairing loss of what would have been, you know. But
Toya kind of the idea. Rose's funeral is kind of a running theme in the story over these couple of episodes, isn't it? And she kind of brings up
she
there
wants
that
to lay her to rest.
Yeah, which I'm guessing is going to happen maybe next week, the week after, because I think we hear on Wednesday that the body has been released, and she phones up George, doesn't she? So that's going to be pretty tragic
Harrowing
stuff. But I'm sure that Janice won't make it down to Weatherfield.
Janice is like,
up to Weatherfield.
I'll get
Sorry,
the
she's
next
Liverpool,
one.
isn't she? Yeah. Okay, so Toya goes into work, and Beth is there being as snarky as usual, saying, "Oh, they let you out then, have they?" Nick very pointedly says, "Look, if she was just arrested to do with when she damaged the car the other month. These creeps are hassling Roy, so she had every right to stand up to them. And actually, she got that off with a caution from the police. So keep your nose out, Beth." And Toya's like, "Oh, thank you very much."
Beth was hilarious in that episode because she was nosing.
She was nosing throughout. She was nosing at the intervention at the Rovers later as well, wasn't she? Anyway, so in comes a flower delivery man with a big old bunch of yellow roses. Now, we all know what that means.
They're in season now.
They are in season. It's absolutely fine. Go crazy with all the yellow roses.
As many as you
Coronation
want.
Street.
Yeah.
We went to a lovely little rose garden last Sunday, didn't we? I was looking out for yellow roses just for Toya.
What is font?
Yeah. So anyway, there's the note from these roses says it's from Rowan, and Toya immediately says, "Well, it's got to have been him that called the police on me. Leanne must know about Rose. She must have flippin' blabbed about it." So she storms into the office, lays into Leanne, and Leanne's like, "Oh, I've not told Rowan." Well, maybe, but maybe I did. But Rowan wouldn't have done this anyway. So
Leanne is such a liar at the moment.
She does at least admit that she's told Rowan, but the whole thing about the reporting to the police. Does she say that? I can't remember. She's not. Definitely not completely honest with her sister, is she? But
No.
Yeah. What? Anyway, she's just completely blind to the fact that Rowan is
She's so annoying.
robbing her blind. She says, "Look, it was during an upload. It was totally private, though. It's like confessing to a police. The priest. Sorry, not the police.
Sometimes your upload connections aren't private.
Yeah, exactly. It didn't have the little padlock on the address bar, so brought that on yourself, Leanne. She says, "Look, she's caught up on the back foot a little bit about this. She was not expecting this to get out." Toya's fuming, absolutely livid. And Nick says, "Well, Toya's right about this.
Yes.
This is unhealthy. You need to stop it now, Leanne, before it's too late for us." So he kind of throws out the threat of, "Oh my gosh, there's some bonking pigeons on the roof next door."
They were just having
We're
a
seeing
kiss
all
before
sorts.
then.
They were just having a little
having
kiss.
a nice little romantic.
We're getting all sorts. Rain.
He's doing a nice
romantic
little dance
pigeons. Anyway, sorry, you just have to imagine that list. It's filthy. Anyway, so Nick kind of puts the.
He's pecking her on the head now.
There we go. Nick puts out the warning that you need to stop this, otherwise we are over. Back at the flat, Leanne and Nick are still bickering about Rowan and the Institute, and she says, "This is the most focused and driven that I've ever been in years. He's done so much to help me with my grief over Ollie. Like, come on, it's not harming anything, is it?" I still struggle. how much do you blame Leanne? Because it's you know, she's been groomed, she's been coerced, she's been entrapped into this thing. Do you have any kind of sympathy for her at this point?
Yes, I do, because she's obviously being preyed upon, and she's a victim, isn't she? It's really hard because you got to, you know, sometimes you have to question your reality and like what your beliefs and stuff. But I don't think it's really healthy to continuously interrogate your belief system. And almost everybody has some kind of belief system that is not a universal one, and somebody else would think was potty. You know, a religious person would think you're silly because you don't believe in God, and vice versa. So how much of this is really that out off the wall? Yeah. I don't know. How much of it is problematic? I mean, the money stuff is what is questionable, but the Institute is far and away not. There are plenty of other places that make you pay money for things.
And like Leanne said, she is feeling better than ever. It's helping her cope with the grief of Ollie, and she's, you know, that's been how many years now since he's gone? 3 years, maybe.
Could be worse. She could be involved in CrossFit. That's a cult you don't want to get involved in.
Oh yeah. So I think Nick is right to be telling her, because he can see that it's a scam. But I don't blame her too much for kind of wanting to cling on to this false reality.
The scammy bits are... What are the scammy bits?
They're just taking a load of money for...
I know, but is that a scam, though? What's a scam? A scam is when somebody takes money off you for something they don't give you.
But it's... I suppose... but they're not... What are... I suppose, well, they're giving her peace of mind, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, the scummy bit about them is what they're doing to Toya.
Yeah. But
they're not doing it to Leanne.
They're just They're just using Leanne as an extra source of income, and it has to come from somewhere. And I guess they're not thinking that what they're giving her is worth the money that they're taking from her.
How do you know that
she's going to keep on doing it.
Okay, so the difference... No, that can't be right. The difference between a scam and not a scam can't be whether the person who's doing it thinks what they're charging you is worth the amount they're charging you. Because then you got scammed and you bought an ice cream for £4.50.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know. It's a difficult one, isn't it?
I mean, there are certain religions where you have to tithe a certain percentage of your income, and they take it straight out of your paycheck. I mean...
Yeah, I know.
It's a self-help organisation.
I suppose we haven't seen just quite how deep Leanne can get into this and how much they'll take from her. Like, at what point do they say, you know, can we have your flat now, please?
Yeah,
can
when
we have
it becomes
your car?
super problematic and she can't afford to carry on, that's when, you know...
Yeah, and then so if she can't pay them, then what do they take next?
They take Ollie away.
Yeah, and also
they take her peace of mind away, and they tell her she's actually crap.
I mean, I guess that maybe they don't get any of the legal fees, do they?
What do you mean?
You know, for when they're suing people and winning, they don't. Do they earn money from that, or do they just break even? I don't know.
If you get damages, you do.
Oh, well, there we go then. That's what
they don't need to sue people. That's not how they make money. They make money from charging £200, £400, £800.
I mean, well, yeah. Well,
it's really difficult. What I mean, you know, you could say people in the cult of football pay £8 for Sky Sports, and they could just read what the scores are. They don't need to watch it. It makes them happy. It makes Leanne happy to do an upload. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's definitely not good for her relationship. Nick's saying, "Look, are you having an affair with Rowan?" No way, she says. And he says, "Well, then just leave the Institute, cut all contact with him. Otherwise, we're over. I can't deal with this." So Leanne says, "Well, you know, maybe we're just in different places like now." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm living in reality and you're living in La La Land." She refuses to apologise for growing and being on a new journey.
We really both laughed at this, didn't we? Because she was just so full of rubbish jargon and nonsense.
I love it. She says, "Look, we can get through this, though." She does. I don't feel that she does love Rowan. Do you?
No.
I mean, she was sitting there holding his hand while they were looking at the AI Ollie last week,
I
and she's
genuinely-
staring at him in the same way that she might stare at someone that she was in love with. But
I think she thinks of him like the Pope.
I think she genuinely still does love Nick at the moment.
Yeah, she just is.
And when she eventually finds out what's going on between him and Toya, she's going to be heartbroken.
She's going to be mad.
And she's probably not going to say any of it was her fault at all for
No.
going off with this institute bloke. But anyway.
But I mean, from the point of view of their differing ideas now, how compatible are they really?
Yeah.
They're
What?
not.
They're not.
They're not.
They're not. I suppose he just wants the old Leanne back. He just wants somebody that can fold her arms at him, strop off. Well, she's doing that, isn't she?
Yeah, she's still exactly the same.
He just can't cope with the positivity that she's suddenly bringing to the relationship.
All this past 2 weeks also, I just want to say about Leanne, Nick and Toya spend all their time either at the bistro or in the flat. Yet somehow every time they come into either of the place from somewhere else, they're always surprised to see the other person there. Like, oh, there you are. You weren't at work. Yes, that's where I would be. I'm either at the flat or I'm at work. And they all live together and they work together. No wonder they're going bonkers.
Yeah. Although they do go to find a new cafe this week, don't they, Leanne and Rowan? Anyway, we'll get to that because that's
Salt
Wednesday's
Lamp
episode.
Cafe.
So, meanwhile, Sarah catches up with Toya in the street again and says, look, do you want to come for a coffee? So they head off to the bistro, and Nick tells her about this chat/argument that he and Leanne have been having, which is a bit like our podcast recordings, isn't it?
Yeah,
Chat/arguments.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Toya says, look, I just hope for your sake that Leanne makes the right decision here. So Nick comes home, Leanne's packed her bags.
Oh no!
But she's not leaving him. She just wants to get away for a couple of days to give him some breathing room. And she says, look, you're just paranoid at the moment. I can't be with you right about now. She hasn't used, what was the phrase that was the absorb your negativity? I can't.
Yeah,
she said it to Toya, didn't she? I think they need to roll that one out again. That's a classic.
That was brilliant.
Anyway,
Put that
she's
on a t-shirt.
Rowan's sorting her somewhere else to stay, and he's like, well, yeah, as if it's just an innocent offer from just a friend. He's into you, Leanne. And she's like, I know the truth, even if you don't believe it. So she goes out, Rowan's there. It really does, it looks like, and Nick's kind of glowering on from above on this scene, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's like Mrs. Bates up in the window, and Leanne's kind of running, as, oh, Rowan. And they probably, I can't remember, did they hug? But I do not blame Nick for thinking that there's something going on here. Leanne's not exactly been 100% faithful to all her partners in the past.
Oh no, she makes out that she has been though,
street.
doesn't she? She kind of says something like, I can't believe you would ever accuse me of such a thing. I would never do that.
But yeah, they look like they're in love to Nick. They're like, oh, let me put my bags in your car and let's go and drive off together. So I'm so lucky to have you in my life.
Yeah, I will not allow myself to be bullied, compromised or controlled.
Yeah. So Toya comes home, and yeah, we very quickly get to the thing that I've been expecting and dreading for all these weeks. You can tell when an affair's brewing, can't you? The characters just give each other the looks, and then it's like, come on, get on with it.
As it's been pointed out to you, if they didn't do that, then it would come out of nowhere.
They can't win.
No.
If an affair comes out of nowhere, you go, what the hell? What these couple have got nothing to do. But then if they plot it, it's like, oh yeah, come on, get on with it. You just
like
can't,
two pigeons
you just
on
can't
a roof.
please me here, really. So anyway, yeah, they just kiss. They have a little kiss. It's only a. Does he? I think he goes in first, doesn't he?
I
blamed Nick for this.
I didn't watch it.
Nick's. Who do you think needs?
Can't watch
it. Who
it.
do you think needs this more? Do you think it's Nick that needs it because he feels neglected in his relationship?
I think the point
and
of
a bit
it is
sad?
that they both do, isn't it?
Well, Toya's been on her own for 2 years now. Imran's long gone.
He's dead.
Anyway, they are interrupted by Sam coming in, although he didn't see anything, so they kind of do that quick. We will sit apart from each other and let's see what happens on Wednesday. Well, Toya tries to bring it up, and he's like, yeah, well, maybe it's best if we don't speak about it. So he on Wednesday, it seemed like Toya was happier to forget it happened, wasn't she?
Yes.
And he kind of wanted it a little bit more. How are you feeling about how the this affair, not affair, is going on at the moment?
I just don't. I'm just ignoring that part of the story.
I'd really like to be able to ignore it, and I that scene at the end of Monday's episode really spoiled what had been a quite good episode for me. But Wednesday's was better because it wasn't really mentioned very much. But I just know that it's gonna blow up, isn't it?
Okay.
Someone's gonna catch them. Leanne's gonna find out.
So the problem with the first storylines is how predictable they are, and how much focus goes onto those instead of the actual interesting storyline that they are doing.
There's already a really interesting and engaging storyline about a scammy cult, Toya's baby.
Yes,
an affair.
You don't need an affair. There are times when an affair storyline is interesting, and I can't say that it's the sort of storyline that I'm ever interested in. But in the past, there have been really compelling affair storylines, like most famously, Ken, Deirdre, and Mike, like the love triangle. Mm. That was actually interesting and absorbing because that was the only thing that was happening. That was the main story. And
it was also because affair storylines weren't happening all the time.
Yes.
We've already had, Tracy and Tommy Orpington this year, and probably others that I've forgotten about. This is, I guess, what happens when you've had a show that's been on the air for over for 60 years on the air. There's little that can feel fresh, and an affair storyline is the most done to death.
That's not true, Michael, because we've got a cult storyline with an AI-generated child. That's pretty fresh. They haven't done that before. Why are we spending time with an affair? I think we've complained about it before, but I just thought, just to revisit, because I think we're pretty articulate about what it is about these affair storylines that we don't like. And I think that what we're saying is fair enough. I just can't see what the thought process
for is. Me, I think that Coronation Street needs to have better established couples longer. I mean, Nick and Leanne, they've been seeing each other for, nearly 30 years at this point, on and very off. But keep them together. I remember when they first got together on the podcast, and lots of people weren't in favour of them, were they?
Yeah. Nick and Leanne?
Yeah.
But they've been going out together for years.
People said that they weren't good for each other. Same with Steve and Tracy, and I totally get that because they have been in the past bad for each other. But I say I just like the idea of these legacy characters staying together, getting together, and finally staying together. Which I think Tracy and Steve should and will eventually get back on together again. But so keep couples together. But I don't think that Nick and Toya particularly suited, apart from they are both a little bit boring.
Nick and Toya?
Nick and Toya.
No, there's nothing.
I've seen people that say they are.
No, they're not. They're not.
I think Leanne's very kind of flighty and argumentative.
She's a spicy lady, like me.
Nick is a little bit more middle of the road, isn't she? And so is Toya.
Us. Like, I'm the spicy, shouty one, and you're calm.
I'm the squinty one.
Yeah.
I see how people would think that Toya and current incarnation of Nick could be good together, but I just think, living up to Imran.
What would they do? They'd be like, what should we do? Oh, I've got a crossword. No, I don't want to do a crossword before bed. My heart rate will get too high.
Yeah, I think they'd be too dull together. And I love Toya.
I love Toya and I love Nick, but they no.
She and Imran were just perfect. They had brilliant on-screen chemistry.
But they were both quite boring.
They excited each other, but they made each other happy. I think that
Nick wouldn't shag on a desk.
No, he wouldn't. He definitely wouldn't.
He'd say, no, got to spray it first.
He's just
take all the mood away.
I think he'd suck what little life and fun there was out of the relationship. I just don't see it being exciting. But I've looked, on I think it was Coronation Street's Instagram when they showed pictures of the kiss on Monday night. Yeah. The majority of the comments there were saying, "Oh yeah, I ship Nick and Toya."
I'm glad that people have a positive opinion.
Yeah, but I don't know what I want for Toya. I don't know who would be good enough. In my head, I've just built up this that nobody is ever going to be. But Spider, I thought that about Toya and Spider. I thought that they were one of the most sweet couples ever, and then Toya and Imran come along and it's like, no, they're perfect for each other. And then Spider came back and it's like, oh yes, Spider and Toya, they are love's young dream reunited after 25 years. So that there is I just don't think it's Nick. I think he's too plain. I think he's too too straight-laced for her.
They could both go out on a nice jog together.
Yeah, I just don't see excitement in that couple particularly. And the fact that also, if they were to stay together, then I don't know how Toya and Leanne could...
No, it wouldn't work out. What would Sam do? Where's Sam going? Also, Toya would be like, Sam, I'm your mum now.
Yeah.
Can't have that.
And it's also just so horribly soapily predictable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, somebody's dating their sister, their girlfriend's sister.
Dating their sister. How predictable.
Yeah, we haven't gone that far into Coronation Street yet. But...
Well, we've had enough of a moan.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's still going to carry on. I don't know.
It's not the end.
It's absolutely not the end of it. I honestly, hand on heart, don't think that there is a long-term future for these two. And I do think that Nick and Leanne will go back together.
I just keep thinking back to that time when we went up, we went up to Manchester, when was it? April? When did we go?
Yeah, we went March, April time, yeah.
And we saw Nick Price go in, didn't we?
Ben Price, yeah.
Sorry, Ben Price go in, and his car gave us a little squint of recognition.
You weren't there. You were still in bed when that happened.
No, I saw him because we were there with the girls.
Oh, yes, I saw him twice that day.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And then he went in, and then out comes
Georgia
Taylor. I'm just thinking, we should have smacked Ben Price on the nose with a newspaper and said, no.
Leave her alone.
I bet you they were filming that scene in there. They knew that we were standing outside. We would not approve. They did it behind our backs. Absolutely atrocious. No, Ben.
I would be madder, but as I say, I don't think that it's going to last.
You've got to let it out.
Right, so anyway, what went on Wednesday?
We don't know. We're too bamboozled.
Nick asks Leanne, because Leanne's back again, saying, look, did you sleep with Rowan? Have you? And she's like, no, look, any unfaithfulness, as she says something along the lines of, any unfaithfulness in this relationship would mean we were definitely over.
There will be no secrets or shagging.
Yeah. So they have a sit down and chat, and Leanne says, look, I love you and Sam more than anything, but I'm learning to love myself too. Toya huffs in. She's been contacted by the police again. They want to speak to her about something, presumably Rose. But because of this hearing, which was the Institute... what was it called? Slander case against her.
Slander's where you slag, and libel's where you label. As in printing a label.
Yeah, they basically want to shut Toya up.
My handy.
And but because of that, she's going to have to wait and see what the police want. She's basically really peed off on Wednesday morning. And Leanne can't be bothered with this attitude, and she bogs off.
Leanne, imagine if people had treated you the way you treat your sister. Mm-hmm. I can't be bothered with this attitude, I'm leaving. You'd been alone your whole life.
So there's a strange guy in the car later, isn't there, when Toya and Nick are out on the street, and we still don't know who he is. He appears there and at the end of the episode, and he's just like a lurker. An Institute lurker staring at them from a car parked across the street, and when they clock him, he drives off. So Toya's like, now they're getting people to stalk us. I'm not having this.
Well, okay, so do you know that there's a famous cult that this seems to be modelled on, right?
Yes.
And this famous cult, slightly.
Go on.
Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
This famous cult has a methodology they call fair game, which is where you can use whatever method you want to intimidate and stop somebody from being negative towards you. And this really has smacks of that. So, like, stalking people, harassing them, anything you want, even illegal things are possible.
It's all fair game.
It's all fair game.
So Rowan calls in at the bistro later. Nick's obviously not happy to see him. He's come on his motorbike because apparently Rowan rides a motorbike. Could he get any cooler, listeners?
I don't know. I really don't see how.
I mean, I'm surprised that he wants to put a motor helmet over those luscious curly locks.
He probably does it. He probably just carries it to let everyone know when he's not on his motorbike he has got one. Because he could have left it on his bike, couldn't he?
Yeah.
He took it with him.
Yeah. And
hi everyone, just come on my bike.
I love this scene because he's saying, "Oh no, I'm really sorry about what's happening at the moment." Oh no, it's because of George coming in, isn't it?
Well,
George comes in and it's like, what are you doing? You're riding around like Evel Knievel down the street. And Rowan's like, so sorry. This was a brilliant example of him getting somebody else wrapped around his little finger in the space of, 30 seconds, or was it? George starts off having a massive go at him, and by the end of the scene, he's like, oh yeah, I can come and see.
Go on your bike.
I want to go on your bike. Can I come and see your bike, please? He's just so fantastically charming. It's hilarious. And Nick and Toya are just like standing in the background going, I can't believe that there's someone else being taken in by this guy. And George just kind of leaves, full of the joys of spring.
But then what happens?
Well, Rowan asks Leanne to have a go on his bike with him.
Can't
who
believe
are
it.
messes. And she's like, yeah. Nick's
Nick's there like, I can't believe this. I'm
he-
mad. This is ridiculous.
So we sadly
And
don't
both-
get to see any of these scenes.
both Toya and Nick are standing behind the counter like, well, I wouldn't go on a bike. They're very dangerous.
Yeah.
Can't believe she's putting her life in her hands like that. Have you seen the statistics for road accidents involving motorbike? Yes, I have, Nick.
Well,
I have actually.
there is kind of...
Yeah.
Well, there's...
death traps.
Toya thinks that there's been a road accident later, doesn't she? But anyway, Rowan and Leanne head over to this cafe, which we've never seen before on Coronation
Where
Street.
is it?
It's a new place. It is filmed at the cafe at the Coronation Street Experience. So many of you listening might have actually sat in that very, very cafe. They just did it all up with a load of fake vines all over the place.
Put vines up, put spotlights in, put some salt lamps on the table.
Oh yeah, they had big old
big
rocks of
crystals.
crystals, didn't they? I don't know whether it was supposed to be an institute cafe or whether it
Do you
was
know
just
what
like
was
a
really
random
funny, though?
Weatherfield one.
Considering that is a cafe, it didn't look like a cafe at all, did it? It just looked like a random big
place
room.
of tables in.
Well, they didn't have any menus on the table. That's what they needed. They needed some menus. What do you think they serve at the Institute Cafe? I bet it's all like quinoa and chickpeas
Yeah, I reckon.
and like pomegranate seeds.
Oh, you're right. I did think it looked a little
Actually
bit
sounds really
too
nice.
much like we're just throwing some things in here. It didn't look
Well, yeah,
bustling
somebody
and
it
busy
looked like
and
they were like, what the
realistic,
hell
but-
do you put in a cold cafe? I don't know. Salt lamps.
Although I still
Crystals.
appreciated the fact that it was somewhere new, that wasn't the bistro, wasn't Speed Dial, wasn't Roy's. So
Oh, I bet they have Huel. I bet they have like specially formulated gruel that is nutritionally balanced.
I bet they got wasabi peas, and when Toya finds out, she's going to be livid.
She'd be like, I can't believe they stole my idea.
No, she'll be like, sign me up.
What? They seem like they know what they're doing.
There's this scene in the cafe was hilarious because he gets out his laptop
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh god, this was so cringe.
he tells Leanne she's level 5.
No. He
Oh.
says no. First
What?
of all, he says, Leanne, I've got a video call for you from Willow.
Oh,
and
yes.
she goes, but you can't talk to Willow unless you're level 5. And he says, guess what, baby? You're level 5 at last. And she's like, wow.
She seems so genuinely thrilled by it. Jane
I
Danson
kind
is
of
doing.
want to join a society where I get to go
Just-
up in levels.
I know. That sounds good.
See,
What's
I've
the
been
top
saying
level? What
this-
level's Rowan?
Yeah, how high does it go?
Yeah.
I've been saying this for years. Adults need something like brownies, scouts, girl guides, whatever. We want little clubs where we can get badges and go up levels. That's all I want out of life.
This definitely smacks of that very famous cult, doesn't it? And the different tiers, and yeah, further in and.
Do you think there's going to be a South Park episode about the Institute?
So they get the laptop out and give Willow a video call. I was slightly disappointed by Willow. After we talked about her on the podcast last week and theorised all sorts about her, she was only in it very briefly, wasn't she?
She didn't have a chance to really impress us, and she wasn't charismatic. She was on a screen. I don't know how they could have done this any differently to make her more amazing, but the only way they could have done it is by casting somebody that you already know.
Yeah,
so
you're
you
right.
would have gone, oh, I like this person, and then it would have been like, they would have had to. It would have been easier to connect.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping now they have got somebody to play Willow. We'll get to see her again.
But she just came across very cold and stilted, didn't she? And she was clearly up to no good.
Yeah.
Wasn't she?
We don't even get to hear much of the phone call, to be honest, do we?
No, Leanne's just like.
So pleased to be able to speak to her. And Rowan says, "You're going to be able to approve new members yourself now.
Oh, who
I
is
want
she
to
gonna
see
recruit?
this." Well,
Who's she gonna recruit?
maybe George. He seems like he's only a.
Do you know who I think would be perfect?
Who?
Sean.
Do you reckon?
Sean would love it.
Why?
Sean's desperate to belong somewhere. I think he's a bit gullible because he ended up in that.
He had that
pyramid
MLN scheme the other year. You're right. I'd really like to see some scenes of Leanne trying to recruit the neighbours.
Can you imagine her?
Imagine her going over to Sally's, and what would Sally say if Leanne's trying to recruit her? I think she's almost like try and play along just to be polite, and then as soon as Leanne's back was turned, she'd have a snarky remark at Tim.
Leanne could do. She could be like, "Oh, Sally, you should come. We're having a retreat in Cheshire."
Yes.
And Sally's like, "Oh, Tim, Cheshire. Oh," and Tim would be like, I don't think so.
I bet Mary would sign up. She's probably already had a few cults in the past already.
No, Mary would out-batty them, wouldn't she?
Yeah.
They'd be like, this woman's too weird for our cult.
Anyway, Toya, meanwhile, is in Roy's cafe and she gets a shocking sounding phone call. It's from the hospital because apparently Leanne's been involved in a motorcycle accident. Oh no! So she rushes over to the hospital, gives Leanne's name to the woman at the desk, but hang on a minute, there's nobody called Leanne. What was her middle name again? Annika or something, was it? Battersby there. I can't help you. And Toya's like, but you called me earlier. How mysterious. But it all turns out that that's a big old ruse from the Institute because Toya's hearing's going on, and because she's been at the hospital, she's not been able to turn up there. Who has, though, is Rowan and Leanne. I can't remember who it was that was telling the other one, oh, I'm glad that we came, or I'm glad you decided to come. It was clearly Rowan wanted to be there. This was all part of the plot.
Yeah, Rowan's been so generous in convincing Leanne to come to support her sister, I think.
Yeah.
The judge just says, oh, apparently the defendant can't be here because her sister was in a motorbike accident. And bloody Leanne the grass stands up and says...
No, it was Rowan does.
He
stands
right,
up and
okay.
goes, hey, wait a minute.
Hey.
Her sister's here.
And the judge is like... That's a pretty cool dude right there. He's really awesome. I want to go on his motorbike with him. Yeah, you're right. It was Rowan. Rowan,
I just loved it.
Rowan's the miss. You didn't give us any homework. Shut up, Rowan.
So Leanne has to admit that Toya, wasn't exactly thrilled about coming to court today. So the judge is left thinking, well, clearly she's just come up with an excuse to get out of it. Eventually, Toya does turn up at the court. Too late. It's the ruling's already been made. It's been ruled
injunction.
that an injunction saying that if Toya says anything negative about the Institute publicly again, she could risk jail time.
Do you think we're going to get that from ITV?
What?
An injunction about talking smack about.
Do you think we're at any point during this we are going to see Toya in jail?
No.
I've got a feeling we're not.
No. I
think she's going to avoid it, but I'm very happy for this storyline to run and run and run, and it feels like it would be a natural thing to do to have her thrown up.
She's already given up.
No, she's going to only for a few.
At the end of today.
It's just the end of the film and block probably. Anyway, so Toya says, "Well, this is what happened. I was told that you were in hospital, Leanne," and Leanne thinks that she's just making it up. She says, "No, honestly, it's true." Leander says, "This is all just part of your attempt to slander the Institute. I don't believe anything you say." Things started to get heated.
I really
There's
can't
accusations
believe,
flying around.
Because I think is it Nick that says, "Oh, don't you have the record of the phone call?"
Yeah.
And she says, "Oh, it was unregistered." Like, go to the hospital and talk to the person and reception because they will tell anybody who asks them that you turned up.
That's the sort of thing that somebody doesn't remember in the moment on Coronation Street, and then when the filming block comes around again in 3 weeks, suddenly they remembered, oh, you know what, I could talk to that person. I talked to
the lady, and she's had a sudden bout of amnesia because she's in a different soap.
Anyway, so they're just arguing. Then a police officer shows up and says, that Rose's body has now been released to the coroner so she can get a proper burial. So Toya is immediately taken out of this fight with her sister. All she cares about is giving Rose a proper send off. And Leanne says, look, Leanne, to be fair play to her as well, also puts the bickering to one side, and she does want to support her sister because she genuinely believes that Toya is trying to get in the way of her happiness. She doesn't.
Both of them are very interesting because they're still trying to help the other one.
Leanne isn't purposefully out to get Toya.
No.
She just doesn't understand why her sister isn't so head over heels about this institute as she is.
Yeah.
She still loves her,
Yeah.
and so when the whole funeral for Rose comes up, of course she wants to help her out. And Toya's saying, I can't really afford it, but I'll put it on the credit card, it'll be alright. And then she gets this email saying that she's now owing £15,000 in court fees for everything that's been going on with her between her and the Institute. How on earth is she going to pay that? Can't afford to bury her own child without a credit card. Nick says that you need to get the Institute to back down right now. Enough is enough.
She's like the only person in the entire show who doesn't have access to vast amounts of money at a moment's notice.
To be fair, when people on Coronation Street need money, they don't necessarily get it straight away. You might sometimes have to wait a couple of episodes before giving the money tree a shake.
Recently.
Anyway, Leanne is... I think she's kind of starting to realise that this has gone a little bit too far if Toya's having to be asked to pay £15,000. So they go back to the cafe, do Leanne and Rowan, and she says, look, Toya thinks that this whole prank call about the motorbike accident is down to you. What's going on? And Rowan's like, nothing to do with me. Look, I understand that you're worried for your sister, but you mustn't allow yourself to be emotionally manipulated by other people.
It's also really clever because it sounds so paranoid and ridiculous to say, oh, their self-help group that you're involved in faked a motorbike accident and sent me flowers to freak me out, and you'd be like, well, that sounds stupid, nobody would do that.
So Rowan ends up coming into the bistro later and says, I'm so sorry, Tori, for everything that's happened. I can't do anything about the court costs, I'm afraid, but I will get the Institute to drop the lawsuit as long as you promise not to publicly criticise us again. And he kind of smoothly goes into, can you just sign these bits of paper to say that you'll never do it? So he's kind of got the front of being apologetic and wanting to call it quits, but
I think he's slimy.
Oh, he's very slimy. That's why I love him so much. Anyway, so I think Toya's kind of still deciding what she wants to do. She doesn't really want to give in to Rowan and roll over and agree not to.
It's like fighting Battersby Spirit, isn't it? It's the climbing the tree.
But then the car loiterer shows up again, and she goes over to confront him. He drives off, and she's like, "I've had enough of all this. Institute of One. I'm going to sign now. Rotten NDA, and that'll be the end of it." So
or will it?
So there
Do you think they're going to leave her alone when she signs this?
Well, it feels no.
I mean, why would they? What would they have to? I reckon Rowan will now try to force. I think he's going to get wind of what's gone on between Nick and Toya, because I don't think that Leanne's going to work it out. I think Rowan will, and then he's going to use it against them somehow.
But I mean, do you think that Nick and Toya are going to give in to their desires again and kiss and be seen? Or,
Rowan will just see them.
Like Sam definitely didn't see anything the other day, did he? He would have said something there, or there'd have been a look maybe. But they could certainly, Corrie has been known for having characters be overheard discussing secrets by an interested third party who just so happens to be there. Yeah. So I wonder whether someone's going to find out, and then it's going to get back to Rowan somehow.
Really, at the moment, the only negative thing that's going on with Leanne and the Institute is that Toya hates it. And if Toya's now signed something to say she's not going to be involved, that takes away the conflict of the story. So the conflict of the story has to come from somewhere. Otherwise, it's just a really nice story about a woman who was grieving and now has found an outlet that's helping her navigate her loss and become a better person. I mean, Nick, is not a soap story.
Nick's not signed anything to say that he won't speak out, but I think now he's seen just how cutthroat they can be with Toya, and he's also not as bold as she is either. He's not going to say anything. He's
far more self-interested, isn't he?
Yeah.
And also, Toya thought she had nothing to lose, but she actually does.
So I think maybe it feels like it's kind of reached a point in the story where it could go on hiatus for a little bit. I've not looked at the previews for next week at all.
Well, we've got to have the funeral.
Oh yes, of course.
I don't know if we're going to see the funeral or if they'll just come back and go, that was the lovely service.
I think they should, because, you know, it's an easy win for getting a few lip wobbles from the audience, isn't it? I think that if they had...
Well, it's incredible.
I think if they didn't show the funeral, people would complain. I'd complain, because it's yet another one of these big events that characters just talk about when we should actually be able to see the performance.
I know, but I don't know if they will. I mean, there are loads of really high-profile characters that have been in the show that haven't had a funeral.
I wonder whether they'll have the funeral and they'll go out somewhere, and maybe this guy in the car's going to be hovering around in the background. Maybe.
No. I thought you were going to say they'll have the funeral and then they'll come back and they'll do something in the gardens or something. You know, like a final.
No, I don't know. Well, I guess we have to wait. When's it on there? Is it Tuesday that it's on? I think.
Yes, it's on Monday.
Bloody football. Anyway, so yeah, I very much enjoyed this. I think that everything apart from the affair, but you know, I trust Coronation Street to make this affair lead to some interesting story. Let's hope it's a brief affair. Let's hope that it leads to some interesting climaxes and story beats.
You don't want that.
But I don't want anything that's going to go on for too long, please.
That's not what she said.
Right, so speaking of tragic storylines, Paul, Gemma?
Yes. You're just mad about the rain, aren't you?
I'm really mad that there's still... The rain outside is getting... Listeners, if you're mad about this rain, please write in and complain so that I can hold it against...
If you find it soothing and relaxing, then let me know. It's much better than joining a cult, isn't it? You've got to admit that, as far as well-being and mental health goes.
Just listen to the rain, yeah. Go on, what's Paul up and up to?
On Monday,
The
he's
scamp.
got a hospital checkup and he's feeling a bit weaker around the torso and the neck. And the nurse says, you need to use your collar more, but it will mean that you're not going to be able to support your head weight. And so once that happens, you would not advise you to use the stair lift.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Can't believe that. I didn't even know that was something that could happen.
No, this week's story is very much like Paul realising he's before long going to be trapped, if he's not careful, in one room, and that's where he's going to end up dying.
I mean, this story is just progressively robbing Paul of every shred of freedom and autonomy.
He's still
getting bit by bit.
I do like how they're still getting him to make the jokes, but he's
becoming less funny.
It is becoming less funny, but it's helping to stop. It's helping to stop it being unwatchably miserable
and bleak.
And yeah, bleak, exactly. But obviously, it goes without saying that Peter Ash is still
really great,
absolutely superb in every single way.
We've got the sound effect here because they come home and it's raining.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, Paul's realises that he's going to be trapped in these four walls because they can't move. And if he can't go down the stair lift, what the hell is he going to do? And he makes a joke that they're going to have to change the wallpaper in the bedroom to kind of break the tension. But when they get home, it's raining, and he doesn't want to go inside because he says, "Oh, what's the rain going to do? Kill me?" And it also might not be that long before I can't come out and feel the rain again.
It reminded me of, and you didn't see this, when Sinead was on her last legs, and there was a lovely scene where she's in the flat and she reaches her fingers out of a window and it gets rain on her fingertips. That was very nicely done. And then this is similar.
It's very easy to do in this country as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but I bet they use fake rain.
Fake rain. How dare they? Right, so they go into...
Oh yeah, they go to... Was it Seb's garden, or was it...
They sit outside.
They sit outside somewhere.
Beers, and then Billy gets pooed on by a bird. And it wasn't Sarah or Toya. It was an actual bird. Paul finds it hilarious. They go back to the flat later. Paul still finds it hilarious. Billy got peed on. And he says every second matters and I enjoy today. And Billy says that Summer's back from America tomorrow. They should make every second count together.
Talking of rain on the parade, back comes Summer.
On Wednesday, Paul and Billy are talking about the fact that his speech is deteriorating. So Paul's like, "Oh, you can mute me if I get annoying," and he gets this eye tracking machine that he's kind of looking and he has to look at the letters to make a sentence, and he's finding it difficult, but the person who brought it over says, "Oh, you soon be able to get the hang of it." Summer comes in and she's come back from Boston and she's brought her boyfriend with her. I thought he was going to be American.
Yeah, and it took him long enough to open his mouth, didn't it? He got his about 3 scenes
I
into
thought
it before he even got a line.
I thought she'd fallen in love with a non-speaking extra. We get Paul. He falls down the stairs, doesn't he? And
well, you missed about the fact that Summer's first reaction to the eye gaze machine is because she's kind of a bit taken aback by it, isn't she? She's like, oh, because she's been 3 months, and although he was still in a pretty bad way when she saw him last, I think, and she must have known that coming back at this point he was going to be further along that path. But I think they're seeing that machine and him sort of painfully laboriously coming up with his sentences. That's gonna shock her. But he makes this joke about what does he say? You went out for milk and that was 3 months ago.
You haven't brought any milk back.
Breaks the tension a little bit, so I appreciate that.
Then he falls down the stairs.
Oh dear.
And Dr. Gaddis and Billy try to convince him to go to the hospital, but he won't. And then this is when Summer and Felix come in, and Todd's there as well. And Felix is like super awkward, and yeah, I was disappointed he wasn't an American, but he's weird.
Yeah, I thought at first when I was watching him, I was thinking,
what are you doing?
I don't know, not sure I like him. But then as the scene went on, it was like, oh, he's definitely being made to be weird on purpose.
He's like really tall,
and that's weird enough already, suspiciously tall. But he's just really bizarrely and creepily interested in Paul's condition, isn't he?
He's got no tact. He says, I'm a neuroscientist, I'm doing a PhD, I find your condition fascinating.
Yeah, he's just kind of a bit of a nerd, really, and he's got this giant water bottle, and nothing wrong with water bottle, especially if it's a Conversation Street branded one. But he's just got this comically large, bland water bottle
with him.
Yeah. And he talks about some plant-based restaurant that they can go to in town. Again, lots of people. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but
it's nothing to do with that.
Altogether,
it's to do with the fact that he fits in no way to the rest of the family. It's like, Summer, what have you done?
Apart from Summer,
random. But she's weird, but not in that way.
She has a thing for tall people because Aaron was a bit up there, wasn't he? Although I think Felix outstretches even him. But
anyway, they go off together, and Todd's like, "Who the hell?" Well, no, Todd's like, Paul's not happy about it.
Yeah, Paul's the one that's doesn't like him. Todd was just surprisingly taken by him.
Paul's thinking about the fact he's never going to see how this pans out, basically. And he's telling Billy later that Felix is not right for Summer, and then he's saying, "Oh, I don't want to move away from the flat and the family." And Billy says, you might have to, because this place might not be suitable for you for very long. And Paul gets really upset and says that his world's getting smaller, and one day it's going to be these 4 walls, and he's not ready yet. Which was really sad.
It was.
Really, really sad. Yeah, because normally they try to cheer you up with the end of the MND story, like, oh, but don't worry, they're still coping with humour. But this was like, this wasn't bleak ending. I can't smile my way through this. This is bloody awful.
Do you see them moving anywhere else?
No.
I think it would be a shame. I mean, obviously it would be good for Paul to be able to go somewhere where he could get out more. But from a viewer's perspective, I kind of see it all ending in this place. I don't want them moving into number 5 with Bernie and have Chesney and Gemma around. They don't need all that.
Yeah, they don't. But also, every time something like this happens, you can see Billy's panic. Because he's thinking, is this what tips him over the edge?
Well, yeah, exactly. He's still waiting to come
know
down
when Paul's going to decide.
To play Oh Happy Day. Yeah. So Summer's return now. In fact, Summer's just disappearance. When she went, we was saying, well, is it going to be like a mad dash across the Atlantic because he's decided that now's the time to end it, or is she going to come back and it's too late? But it still feels to me like he's still, despite how he's talking, I don't know, but it feels like he does still have enough life in him left that, was there any point of her going away at all? Was it literally just to get her out the way?
I don't know.
It wasn't so that she could have a cute little side story about having a boyfriend, because I'm assuming...
You get boyfriends anywhere.
I'm assuming that he's not going to stay around for long because he's been written as a bit of an awkward type.
Can you imagine if he just became a permanent character and he was in it for years, just drinking massive vats of water?
He's a bit like... old. What was his name? Who worked for George last year? Lurch.
Oh yeah, Lurch.
Lurch. He's a little bit like Lurch.
Maybe he'll get a job working for George.
But then he'll be gone within 2 episodes.
He would be good because he and Lurch could be both sides of a coffin.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be lopsided.
Yeah. So anyway, that it was just more tragic stuff. I found the eye gaze thing quite fascinating. I like how it does actually say it in Peter Ash's voice as well. They've done such a good job with this. But I do worry a little bit that now we're gonna have Summer's dramas with Felix detracting from the core issue of Paul is dying and he's deteriorating.
Maybe Felix and Summer will have an affair.
Yeah. I was wondering, like, where's Bernie at the moment? Because this story recently has been very Bernie heavy, to the detriment of Paul's. You know, he's barely been appearing at all, and we've seen neither hide nor hair of her. So get her back in there. Let's have all of them together. Anything to add about this story? It feels like this week, you know, it was drama, but we're kind of rushing through these storylines. It was like, Institute was great. You don't need
to make it longer.
Paul was sad.
It's as long as it needs to be.
Yeah, but people enjoyed the long podcast last week, they said. So, the Michael and Glenda and George story, I'm not thrilled by this. You know, I'm very much enjoying the other two, and this is just kind of okay. This one's still, it's just not making Glenda look good, I'm afraid. But so anyway, she's kind of sneaking downstairs with Michael at the beginning of Monday's episode, all excited about presumably a night of passion with him. And he hurries out the door, almost gets caught by Jenny, who's having a bit of a time in the men's loos at the Rovers. And later on, Mary brings a bunch of flowers over to the Undertakers for like some do that they've done on, and George
it's probably a funeral.
Probably is, yeah. George is really down. He's
lost the business of this woman that Glenda put off.
Yeah.
And then she's gone off with Rest Easy. The only other Undertakers in Weatherfield. Yeah,
and then Dee Dee shows up saying, I recommend that you attempt a mediation session with Glenda. So this is what this story was leading up to on Monday, which is kind of fun, I suppose, especially because Debbie gets involved in it. She's just hanging about, just looking for a story in the pub.
Dee Dee comes in and says, I recommend you either have a mediation, you do an upload session, or you start a podcast.
Yeah.
Because those 3 ways are how you talk through your problems.
Mediation it is. And like I said, Debbie's only too keen to be involved in any story going at the moment. So,
she's like, do I smell a story?
Well, that would work for Toya, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
So,
was this a rose?
Who's there? It's Glenda has got, who's she got on her side? Jenny and...
I don't know.
I can't remember who was there. Oh, Rita is there as well, isn't she? And then on George's side, he's kind of sitting next to Mary. They got some of the big names there. Debbie's there in the middle, trying to mediate, but Glenda and George are just locking horns straight away, basically just trying to one up each other with terrible childhood memories.
While Beth and Kirk,
Beth's there at the bar, just finding this hilarious. Or Beth's finding it hilarious.
I don't think Kirk knows what's happening.
It doesn't get very far. Debbie gives in. And Rita's like, oh, well, this is round 1. So that's basically it with that.
She says you don't need a mediator, you need an exorcist, I would watch that film.
Anyway, Michael and Glenda just have a bit of a flirt in the ginnel later, and then she drags him off back to the pub. So she might not have the love of her brother at the moment, but at least she's got the love of a good man in Michael Bailey. Wednesday, more sneaking about from Glenda and Michael. Jenny clocks it this time and is happy for her, also maybe combined with happy about being allowed into a scene for once. But Glenda says,
seriously, what's happened? Like 1 minute we were like gearing up for a brilliant 2024 big story.
Rovers is back.
We've got Daisy, we've got Janny, we've got Carla, loggerheads at the Rovers, 3 women trying to battle it out to be top dog or top bitch of the pub, and it just dissolved into a cloud of perfume.
Who does own the Rovers at the moment?
Nobody knows.
It's bizarre. Anyway, Glenda says, look, to Jenny, I'm worried that Michael's not really interested in anything more than a bit of a quick fling, so she's got these insecurities. George, meanwhile, is in the pub steeling himself to go and talk to Glenda, but then in comes Rupert from Rest Easy to talk to her. Clearly this is an arranged meeting, and she's like, look, I've come into the back. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, Michael is telling Ronnie, I'm worried because I don't want to come on too strong. So it's the classic, both of them think that
they need to
yeah,
play hard to get.
Yeah. So anyway, Glenda and Rupert come out the back of the pub later. It sounds like Glenda is interested in some kind of merger or buyout of Shuttleworths from Rest Easy over my dead body, basically, says George.
Her half to Rest Easy, couldn't she?
Yeah, and that's again. Why would Glenda do that? She might be miffed that Archie didn't leave her part of the business, but to sell up this, Shuttleworths is supposed to have been running for 100 years plus. We're supposed to believe in the law of the show.
Yeah, okay.
I don't believe that she would be so petty to sell up just to get back at her brother.
Go from the other way around and go, why would George throw away all the love of his sister just to keep his business?
Well, and that's really the crux of what my problem with this story is. I just don't believe that either characters
doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. I can't get past the fact that they shouldn't and wouldn't be acting like this.
It's difficult because sometimes you can criticise it and say, this would be solved easily if they just talked to each other properly. And, the response to that is like everything could be, and then you'd never have a TV show. But it's out of character is the problem. It's not so much
it feels
conflict.
mega manufactured. And even there's the whole thing with Audrey getting £80,000 from Archie's will. That feels like they've maybe retconned that.
It doesn't make any sense.
The fact that it hasn't been brought up yet.
Why did he give 80 grand to Audrey and seemingly nothing?
It really feels like they're wanting to hoping that we'll forget this. I reckon it was such a big story,
absolutely awful, and she's not owning up to it.
She's do you think?
She did something really dreadful. Like maybe she was like worshipped Satan or something, and like drew a pentagram on a coffin or something.
I don't know. I don't get it, but this story needs to end pronto. This should just not be dragging on as long as it is, and it really is dragging. It's been a month? It feels like longer than it probably is, but
abort mission. I say
this is a dud story from characters that should be fantastic. Oh, it's a real shame. Anyway, Michael comes into the pub to defend Glenda at one point because she gets into another argument with George, and this is when the announcement comes out that they're an item, and George is like, good grief. I do like that. That's George's reaction to things. Later on, Glenda sits down with Michael and says, look, what's going on with us? You seem to be blowing hot and cold here. Are you interested in me or not? And he, in so many words, makes it clear that he really is into her. And they give a big old snog. Glenda gets a thumbs up from Jenny, and there we go. So Glenda and Michael officially out there, Corrie's next big couple, and eyeing up a nomination for the Elo Love Award and the Conversation Street Awards. And how are you feeling about this story? It's like,
what story? We just discussed we hate it.
Do you hate it as much as me? I think
it's silly. I don't hate it as much as you. I just think it's one of these ones where I'm just going to pretend it never happened when it's over.
Yeah.
I don't think anything consequential is going to happen. I don't think anything will change. I think it's just a waste of time.
It really does feel like, and we've been saying for so long, give Glenda a story, give her a story, but it's like not like this.
The thing is, there are stories that are wastes of time, but they're not really because you enjoy them, and there are stories that kind of cement your love of a character or do some kind of character development or make you remember what you liked about somebody. But this isn't doing that either.
This is making us silly. Like the characters less. Yeah. There's neither of them are to be lauded for their behaviour in this story. They're both as bad as each other.
Yes.
They won't back down. I enjoyed the mediation scene.
Yeah.
Debbie, great to get her involved, and her clearly unable to contain the bickering siblings was kind of funny, but. And yeah, I also like that Michael's got us. It's got so many elements that should work, but
The actual
it's just
story
it's really, really not, unfortunately.
silly.
But hey ho, we got a new story now. Ken's got a story, everybody. He's not. I couldn't figure out whether he'd fallen down the stairs again or just tripped over down the bottom.
It was Daniel.
It was Daniel did it, yeah. Right, so what's the no Ken do story, Gemma? Over to you.
On Monday, Brian, Evelyn, Ken, Yasmin, Stu are gonna have
Stu's birthday party, isn't it?
Stu's birthday party, and Bobby comes in. Oh, he's like, "Bye,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going.
That was Bobby on Monday,
I'm
wasn't it?
gonna live with my nan.
I'm
going now."
All throughout Monday's
I'll say
episode,
goodbye.
Bobby is teasing us.
Bobby's had a bigger goodbye episode than some people that actually have left, have been in the show longer.
And he's not even gone by the
We were
end of
watching it going, is he really going? That'd be good, wouldn't it? No, they're just having a go. Like, honestly, what are they doing to this character? It's like they're daring us to hate him.
But I am seeing the tides are turning a little bit,
Yeah,
and
but
more people are
you've been saying that for
saying
ages.
more people are saying that they like him.
What? They're being contrary because he's not likeable.
He's not as unlikable as he was at the beginning. I will 100%, say that. But that doesn't mean that he's a character that I really ever want to see coming on screen, unfortunately.
I'm waiting for his big turnaround, and it's not
Still
saying
not.
I'm going and not going.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was
Anyway.
his turnaround, wasn't it? Get to the door. Nah, not
Turn
really.
around. So he shakes hands with Ryan to say goodbye. Then he gets and sits down with the Stu's lot and says, "Sorry about causing trouble. I'm moving on." And Ken's like, "Have a drink." Then he gets a bit wobbly, does Ken, on the way back from the loo. So he says, "I'm going to go home. I'm not feeling very well." And so he goes home. And then Bobby says, "Right, I'm going. I'm going to pop in to see if Ken's all right." And he looks through the letterbox and Ken is on the floor. And he's like, "That's not normal, is it?"
It's really handy that he happened to collapse in the very small field of
Window,
view that
yeah.
you get from looking through the... most of the things that happen in the street, if they
can't
happen in the
look through
front
a
room,
window.
they've all got net curtains, haven't
Yeah,
they?
you can't see in there. It's impenetrable.
Yeah.
Right, so everyone is obviously worried. He gets an ambulance. They go to the hospital. He's got minor concussion and have fractured his pelvis. And he has to be in hospital for 48 to 72 hours. And Bob's like, "Bye then, I'm going. I've got my stick with my little knapsack on the back." Goes
Back
to
to
Carla
Minneapolis.
and she's like, "Oh, I'm just cooking dinner." She's
What
making
was
lasagna. So- and he says, "Oh, I saved Ken's life, And Carla's like, "Yeah, well, have some lasagna."
I think she kind of is saying, "Go on, you can stay then."
Why? I'd say your gran probably was quite lonely. Also, Bobby, your gran's probably fallen over.
Yeah, go
you're
and check
busy
through your gran's letterbox,
rescuing
Bobby.
other people's grandparents when your own grandma's dead. There you go. And you could probably inherit that house. She probably left it to you. On Wednesday, Cassie sees Steve and Daniel in the cafe and is like, "Oh, how is Ken?" Then she goes to say she wants to sit on the switchboard for a trial period, and they're like, "No, you're not working with us."
Oh yeah, and
Steve
she's like,
says.
"You're just mad
You're
that
trouble."
you're just mad that I rebuffed you at the speed dating."
Yeah.
Or is there going to be something there between Steve and Cassie?
I think Cassie seeing as what Eileen's bogged off to Thailand, then Cassie working at taxi would be a fair replacement.
Yeah, I mean, when was it that Sue finished Sister Act? It must have been a good 3-4 weeks ago at least now, which means that maybe she'll be back in the show in another month's time or so. Or maybe she's taken this as another chance for a bit of a break. I don't know, but it's not like the Coronation Street is usually full of switchboard scenes at streetcars and they desperately need to put a character there. But yeah, she's been kicked out the garage, hasn't she? So why not?
Ken gets a visit from the family and he's like, "Oh, I want to go to the Saxon burial mound. I can't wait to go here and do that.
But certain who?
Me and Brian are going to do this, that and the other thing." And then a doctor comes and says, "You can't do any of that. You need round-the-clock care. It's going to take you ages to get back to normal." And he's like, "Oh, ruined my day." Audrey comes and visits, and Ken says someone has to come and assess my living situation. And Steve says, "Oh, we're all going to help you." And Audrey says, "Oh, that's good. You've got a good big family to look after you." And he's like, "Oh my God."
He's just like saying,
you to-
he gets kind of very like, "Oh no, I couldn't possibly.
Well, yeah,
you're
because
so
you're
busy."
awkward. Yeah, because you feel awkward when people have to look after you. It's horrible.
I don't mind.
You wouldn't know. You don't understand what it's like when you can't do anything for yourself. It's horrible. When I needed you, you didn't even make me dinner. And you made me feel bad because I asked you to heat up a microwave meal.
But I'm not saying that. I'm saying it'd be nice if people looked after me.
I do that for you every day. What would be any different? What would be any different?
Okay, maybe.
You don't understand what it's like. When you have to rely on people, it's very different. And also, would you want Steve McDonald to be in charge of you? Like, I need to go to the toilet. Steve McDonald has to help me sit on the bog.
That's
no,
a good
thank
point.
you.
But it seems like this is where this story's going, isn't it? It's a kind of care for the elderly story, which is... Corrie's not really done anything like this before, as far as I remember.
I don't think so.
It works very well enough that Ken's involved. I always like it when they give Ken a story, because he's still going to act as good as the rest of them. I'm certainly not adverse to this one.
This is very uncomfortable, I think, to watch, because we've seen Ken, his whole life, and now he's inevitably getting older and having to rely on people. And you kind of just think about your own future. And I didn't really like hearing how good it is to have a big family to look after you, because we're going to be all by ourselves. I think about that every day.
We kind of, when we get old and crumbly, listeners, can you come and make us a cup of tea and stuff?
It's not
please?
even like we can go, oh, good job we didn't have kids, so we've got all this money that we can use for our care, because that's not how it's worked out, is it?
No. So this was very much a setup for whatever it is that's going to happen next week.
I think I'll just drag myself to the nearest train track.
It looks like Cassie's going to be involved, because she had that scene in the cafe there. Oh, there was the bit where they were talking about paintbrushes. What was this?
I don't know what that was about. You've made a note and I don't
know.
No,
Steve was talking about in my paintbrushes suitably sized, thank you very much. And she says, I'll come and help you out with your world's smallest paintbrush. I can't.
It's not Carry On, is it? It's not quite Carry
I
On.
don't think it's... I'm selling that joke as funny as it was when we
Don't
watched
forget, Michael, Betsy's going to go for work experience. Everybody swooned on Twitter when Swain came in wearing her nice jumper
wearing her
with her
casuals.
hair. Somehow she looked really different, even though she always wears plain clothes. But somehow she looked different. More beautiful, more assured, more confident, but also shy and bashful and excited, like a girl in the first flush of young love.
Yeah. So, I don't know when that's supposed to be happening. She's doing her GCSEs at the moment, is Betsy, so presumably after that.
Yeah.
And then, are we on finally already? We are on finally already. We are rushing through this. And really, the Abby storyline, there wasn't a whole lot, was there? It feels like it's kind of just tying things up already. Like, can it be? I don't know. But Abby's got this investigator around on Monday who says, well, you've hired me for this, but it's not really my remit. You need to find someone who specialises in cyber crimes. You need to find a bit of a computer expert.
Well, thanks for coming round to tell me.
But he's like, by the way, that's £500, please, for that advice that you go and find somebody else.
What normally happens
So,
to us.
who knows computers on the street? Max, of course.
Max is like, what? It wasn't me. I didn't do it.
Things were a bit awkward after Kevin was the one that accused him of doing the deep fakes.
It's the same as when they told Daniel that Ken fallen over. Oh, it wasn't me. I was here. I was here the whole time. I didn't. What do you mean? I didn't push him down the stairs again.
So they go and see Max, and he's like, I can't help you out with this. I might be a elite video expert.
This is like my mum, who was convinced for years that I was a genius at computers because I showed her Google.
I know. Max says, I might know somebody who can help you out, though. But then on Wednesday it turns up a mate. But on Wednesday it turns out that they can't help.
Oh.
And it looks like there's naff all they can do about the situation, really. But then later on, slightly better news for Abby, because she gets to see that story that they've cancelled this documentary series, which surely should have finished its run by this point anyway.
Like, how long was it?
How many episodes was it going to be?
Can you spin out a documentary about a scrote who
reformed scrotes
who does football? Isn't that all of them?
But they have cancelled the second series, so there's a bit of a win for them, really. And they have a celebratory drink in the Rovers. Cassie comes and says she's pleased for her through gritted teeth, and then there's a funny bit where she sits. Was she sitting in Debbie's seat?
Yeah.
She sits down next to Abby, and then Debbie comes and looks a bit put out, but then nothing really happens with it.
I've got some advice for Abby.
What's this?
If you can't beat them, join them.
What's she to do? What?
Make your own AI-generated pornography of yourself and profit from it.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, why not?
If only she could find the person that did it so she can learn the tips.
I've heard you can make money out of this.
Anyway, that was that for that story. I do want to give a quick shout out to the scene when the investigator was there on Monday morning and we got to see the establishing shot through the back window of number 13. That was fantastic because it was raining outside, which they'd already established through the Paul and Billy scene, and although there'd been other characters wandering about the street as dry as a bone, or coming into the Rovers or whatever, they did carry on the rain there, and it was clever, wasn't it? You were looking through the back window into the lounge, and you might think, well, what's strange about that? But there are two different places.
Yes, Dom Stevenson was the director for that. And,
yeah, he's fab. He's like Matt Hilton's protege, isn't he? And you can always tell that he tries a bit of a special shot.
He said it was a mixture of it was
it was a composite shot, wasn't it?
Yes. So
I kind of hope that they do it more because I was watching it and even though I knew that it was fake and that's usually what
annoys you.
Yeah, it really annoys me. It's like as good as an effect it is, I know it's fake, therefore it takes me out of the experience.
That's what I'm like with fake grass. I hate it.
Oh, like Yasmin's fake grass that we saw last week. But yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was clever. It must have been an awful lot of work just to get
for that.
What, 5 second scene.
Yeah, because just to be clear, that set does not exist inside. There are very few sets where you can do an outside shot in. Like the kebab shop exists on the set.
Yeah.
We had
Yasmin's conservatory last week, didn't we?
Orangery, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
That exists in the set because it's it's just a.
Preston's is another one.
Yes, that's about it.
I don't even think Audrey's is anymore. It used to be.
There's a bit of Rory's Rolls that's been built just for like going in and out of the door.
Yeah, but lots of places.
But you
will
can't.
have that.
Yeah.
So I very much appreciated that shot.
Very
they got
good.
the angles
Well
just
done,
right.
Dom
Well
Stevenson.
done. Well done. And that's it for this week's Coronation Street. We are far away from the 2.5 hour, 2 3/4 hour epic of last week's Street Talk. But I think we've said all we need to say about it.
There's a third less, and it was what was new. There was the only news story we had this week
was the Ken one.
Was Ken fall, and we've seen Ken fall down the stairs before.
I'm all for a Ken story. So how are you going to rate it this week?
I think I'm going to give this 3.5 litres of water that Felix carries with him at all times.
I like
just in case he gets slightly dehydrated.
I'm thinking 3.5. It's the Paul and the Glenda and George story did drag it down for me a little bit. I think if we hadn't had that, it could have been up there with the 4 because I really enjoyed. Oh, I suppose there was the kiss as well, wasn't it? Yeah, 3.5. 3.5. Minions from the Institute out of 5.
Who incidentally is my character of the week.
What, the minion from the Institute?
It was
Look, if you didn't
that
let me
or
have AI Ollie
Felix's
last week.
Water bottle.
Who was my character of the week this week? It's going to be, I think, either Toya or Rowan for me.
Rowan's such a
I think it's Rowan. I think I just love seeing, what's he going to get up to next, and he coming across so innocent.
He's like an earnest schoolboy.
But Leanne is here. She's not been in a motorbike accident.
Sneaky bugger.
I just enjoy watching him so much. Yeah.
He is like somebody from the Famous Five or something. He's just been catapulted into the modern era.
Why the Famous Five?
Because they're all so earnest, aren't they? Oh, mummy. But you've given us 3 bottles of pop. We only need 2. Well done, Rowan. Well, you can have the extra bottle of pop as a reward. Oh, thank you, Mummy, so much. Can we have some of that spiffing ginger cake too?
I don't see the similarity.
Oh, I do.
But yeah, he's just great. Rowan's my character of the week. What about you?
I don't know. Who shall I put?
I don't know. You can say Paul. You can say Toya. You can say I don't know. You got to choose. Should have thought beforehand.
Ken, because he's getting a story.
So low bar for getting character of the week this week. Then.
I didn't feel like anything particularly made me go ooh.
Okay.
So Ken can have it because he gets seniority.
Well, there we go. So that's it for this week's Coronation Street. Sorry if you were expecting a lengthy discussion. We didn't.
Should have made the show longer, shouldn't they?
Yeah. Well,
when are we going to catch up?
Should we?
When are we going to get the extra episodes?
Yeah, I don't think
I'm counting them, and if we don't have the full amount, I'm writing
complement of episodes
a
for the year.
letter. We've got to have how many? 1,000
No.
plus.
The population of cows is estimated to be 1.47
What is
million.
Wow,
I don't know
cows?
what made that.
What cows?
Anyway, look, we're blathering on.
We're going now. Hope that you enjoyed this episode. Sorry that it wasn't very long, but you can blame the football.
Yeah.